Welcome. This is the June 19th meeting of the Wallingford Zoning Board of Appeals. I'd like to start the meeting by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight's decision will be published in the Record Journal on Friday, June 23rd, 2023. The effective date of your variance will be Friday, June 23rd, 2023, the date a certified copy is recorded on the land records. The statutory 15-day appeal period will expire on Sunday, June 9th, 2023. If you commence operations and/or construction during the appeal period, you do so at your own risk. Voting tonight is Bob Gross, Tom Wolfer, Karen Harris, and Bob Prentice, and myself, Joe Russick. First, application 23-016, a variance request for Choate Rosemary Hall Foundation Incorporated, 138 North Elm Street. Madam Secretary, do we have any correspondence?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman. We have, first of all, staff notes, which read as follows. Applicant seeks building coverage of 18.2%, where 17.4% exists, in order to construct a 3,590 square foot single-story addition to the main dining hall at Choate Rosemary Hall, 138 North Elm Street, in an R18 district. Variance previously granted in February of 2020 for building/lot coverage of 18.7% to renovate and construct an addition to Hill House. In October 2022, Choate proposed and subsequently filed a lot merge between 138 North Elm Street and 28 Beaumont Avenue, increasing lot area from 437,514 square feet to 457,520 square feet, an increase of 19,906 square feet. This ZBA application proposes to also merge 138 North Elm Street with 179 Christian Street and 333 North Main Street, further increasing total lot area by another 12,962 square feet. 138 North Elm Street is proposing an overall reduction in lot coverage, 18.2%, that was granted in 2020, 18.7%. Since the lot was reconfigured from what was granted to 138 North Elm Street in 2020, technically the applicant must reapply for building coverage variance for the new lot, even though the net result is less building coverage than previously granted. 138 North Elm Street, including 28 Beaumont Avenue, plus 179 Christian Street, plus 333 North Main Street, existing building coverage of 17.4%. The proposed dining hall addition will result in 18.2% building coverage as is being requested. The board should condition any approval on the lot merge being formalized and filed for 179 Christian Street and 333 North Main Street. We also have 3 pieces of correspondence. The first one is dated May 18th, 2023, and it is written to Patrick Durbin, the CFO of Choate Rosemary Hall, from Kevin Pagini, the town planner. We also are in receipt of a letter to the Zoning Board of Appeals dated June 12th, 2023, from Amanda Benna. And finally, we received a letter today, June 19th, to the Zoning Board of Appeals from Ms. Taylor, class of 26. And that's it.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. You should
Yes.
have another piece of correspondence.
Oh, we do. Was received on June 13th, 2023, and it was submitted by a Philip Yoker, 29 Curtis Street, and it's regarding the zoning history of 138 North Elm Street. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
State your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For your record, my name is Dennis Senaviva. I'm an attorney with the Senaviva Law Firm, 721 Broad Street in Meriden. To my left is Patrick Durbin, the Chief Financial Officer of Choate Rosemary Hall. The property, as you know from reviewing the application, is currently 10.5 acres in size, as mentioned in your memo from Ms. Torrey. It's 10.5 acres. It's a parcel of land with frontage, and again, there's a survey up on your easel. Frontage on Christian Street to the north, North Elm Street to the east, Curtis Avenue to the south, and a small portion of North Main Street to the west. It's in blue up on the easel. The property is zoned R18. It's developed with 9 distinct buildings, the largest of which is Hill House, which is the focus of the appeal. Around March of 2023, Choate merged a separate legal building lot. There was a deed executed in October. It was recorded with the map in March, and it merged a separate legal building lot, which is vacant. It was merged into 138 North Elm Street, so as your notes point out, this lot, previously identified as 28 Beaumont Avenue, is about half acre in size, or it was until it was merged. That increases the overall lot area of 138 North Elm Street from about 10 acres to 10.5 acres, or more specifically as identified on the merger map, 437,514 square feet to 457,420 square feet. So as of today, the property that was 28 Beaumont Avenue has been merged into 138 North Elm Street. And the application before you is based on Choate's intent, with your permission, to expand the existing cafeteria floor plan located at the school by 3,590 square feet. The genesis of the proposal is the applicant's desire to meet the changing needs of their students, particularly those who have food allergies and/or dietary restrictions. The additional space in the cafeteria would permit a larger selection of allergy-friendly foods, as well as more choices to meet the cultural and dietary preferences of the students. Interestingly and importantly, the location for this proposed addition is along the southern side of the existing building. So where it's being proposed is over an area that is already impervious. And I'm sure you recall from many applications before you, oftentimes, applicants are here on lot coverage variances, that more typically in commercial and industrial locations. Here, just as a matter of course, there is no additional lot coverage being proposed. If you approve this application, this addition would be built on land that is already impervious. There'd be no impact on stormwater management, no additional traffic, no additional parking spaces required. Basically, there's no increase in intensity of this site. There's no additional students. It's meeting the needs of the students who currently matriculate at Choate. As your notes point out, again, in 2020, per Appeal 20-002, in an effort to undertake various changes at Hill House in order to improve emergency means of egress and in order to comply with updated codes, and in order to construct ADA-compliant access accommodations, this board approved unanimously Choate's request to increase the building coverage at 138 North Elm from the then current percentage of 18.3%. So we came in 2020. I was here. Some of you were also here at the time. And we asked to increase the building coverage from 18.3% to 18.7%. Again, as you know, under the residential zone, building coverage is limited to 15%. That application, as I say, was approved unanimously on February 18th, 2020. The applicant's proposal tonight thus is legally interesting in that we have received, over 3 years ago, a building coverage variance to allow Choate to achieve an 18.7% building coverage ratio, and yet tonight we're asking for a building coverage of 18.2%, which again is substantially lesser than what had been approved in 2020. And as Amy's notes point out, the main reason for that, for us being here tonight, is that the technical lot for which this board approved the 18.7% was the 10-acre parcel that existed as 138 North Elm back in February of 2020. Today we've added some additional land, which was 28 Beaumont, has been incorporated or merged into this parcel, and we're prepared, upon approval, to add 2 additional parcels, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. And that's all designed so that the land area of 138 North Elm would increase so that we could decrease the building coverage from what was originally approved. So this is part of an overall plan to take additional land, merge it into 138 North Elm Street, and then when we come forward with an application like this, we're going at, based upon our application, from an 18.7% coverage to 18.2. So we're asking to reduce the coverage, building coverage for the new reconfigured lot. As noted, again, in staff's comments, we are proposing to merge 2 existing legally non-conforming building lots. They're both vacant. One is located at 333 North Main Street. It is on the southeast corner of North Main Street and Christian Street, and also 179 Christian Street, which is immediately east of 333 North Main. So that, again, with that additional land area, as has been pointed out in our application submissions in terms of overall coverage, we would be increasing the lot size from roughly the 10 acres at the time of our application in 2020 to 10.8 acres tonight. So we've increased by about little over 3/4 of an acre, almost 8/10 of an acre, the lot size of 138 North Elm Street, while asking for a reduction of coverage because, again, with the advent of this addition for the cafeteria or servery, as it's known, we would have the 18.2% building coverage. Now, obviously, one of the concerns that this board always has is hardship, and I wanted to point out that Connecticut law and Connecticut's expert on land use, Judge Fuller, acknowledges that a variance is properly granted where the effect of the variance is to reduce non-conforming lots. There's case law on that, Supreme Court. And here, we are proposing to take 2 legally existing, non-conforming lots that can be built on today. 333 Main Street is 7,788 square feet. The zone requires 18,000 square feet. It's R18. But it's previous existed before your zoning regs, so it is a legal, non-conforming lot. 179 Christian is 5,174 square feet, even smaller, where 18,000 square feet is required. Both are pre-existing, non-conforming building lots. We could build on them today, which would no longer be so once merged with 138 North Elm Street. And that was one of the comments that Mrs. Torrey made in her memorandum. So the impact of granting the variance application is to reduce the current building coverage ratio from 18.7% to 18.2%, remove 2 non-conforming lots, undersized lots, from your property list, making them now compliant by being incorporated into 138 North Elm, all while ensuring that the students at Choate are provided more allergy-friendly foods and foods which are more dietary and cultural compliant. Really, in essence, a win-win application for both the town in reducing the overall density and the applicant for providing additional services for their students. And that's our application.
Thank you. And thank you for the explanation, because that's where I was going to, was the hardship for this property. Could you just do me a favor and up at the board point out, because it looks like from the picture that you're going to fill in this courtyard, well, it's not a courtyard, but this open area in between the building, just where you're going to be. You can grab the microphone so we could hear you, please. And go ahead, it's on.
For the record,
There you go.
Patrick Durbin, 333 Christian Street in Wallingford. The proposed addition will, I'll trace it with my fingers. You can see part of this open white space right here. And then it will come off this existing south wall by about 8 feet, and then tuck back in right here. So it's this area right here.
Okay. And in all this, just to cover it, the food allergy part is the biggest part of this.
Sure. The existing area where the food is, where students pick up their food, is in this area right here. So it is just that area that we are expanding to allow for more allergy-friendly foods. Right now, some of the food is actually out in the dining hall, which is not ideal, just with everyone walking by it. And also just as dietary restrictions for various cultures or even just preferences have changed over the last 3 decades. There needs to be more space for the students to get through the lines and get in, and get off to class. So we view this, yes, as a health and wellness initiative for our school.
Okay, thank you. Has anybody got any questions for the applicant? Bob, you have something?
Yeah, I have a question. I guess it's kind of a simple question. Has this been reapplied to planning and zoning with a redesign of the property? Has this been taken to planning and zoning for, quote unquote, a new application?
So the short answer is yes. The longer one, which I'm happy to give you, is the fact that a couple things. One is, in order to file the merger map, we bring that to planning and zoning first so they know what's being done and that it's appropriate, so they get to sign off on it before we record. So that was done when we merged 28 Beaumont into 138 North Elm. We have filed an application with the Planning and Zoning Commission to revise one of the earlier approvals that had been received by Choate. And it was that time that the planner, having been advised that, or recognizing that the lot was now reconfigured, directed us to come back to the ZBA saying that before P&Z can act on it, he would just want a confirmation that even though we're reducing the density, that we still have to come in front of the ZBA. So the answer is yes. They know about it, and that's why we're here.
Amy, you want to speak about this, or you look like you had something to say?
Forgive me, I didn't know if Mr. Prentice was asking procedural questions versus of the applicant, but Attorney Senaviva has answered them, and just to concur that there is already an application in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission. They cannot act until the ZBA has acted. So it's a minor site adjustment modification that will follow this from Planning and Zoning. You need to act first, procedurally.
You all set, Bob?
Okay.
Bob,
I think this would be to Amy.
get
Oh,
closer to the mic.
sorry about that. I'm loud enough as it is. So the lots we're talking about are diagonally across from Moses Y Beach. So if you're at the stop sign, the four-way intersection, those are the 2 lots. That'll be the lot on North Main and then the lot heading west onto Christian Street. These lots, the only way they can build on these lots is they merge them in, or they have to grant them a variance to build on it. And they wouldn't Is it on now? Now it's
Yeah.
on. So it's the lots across from Moses Y and diagonally across, and the first, as you're coming down Christian on your right-hand side there, if you're coming down Christian coming from Route 5. So once these are incorporated in there, Choate at this particular point would have to come back for a variance to be able to build on them. Now they could technically build on those lots if they wanted to.
I'll address your first piece first. They can build on the lots without merging them.
Right. But once it's
On
merged.
each lot.
Right.
And they don't necessarily need a variance because we don't know what would be proposed. It perhaps
Right.
would meet standards. And their lot itself is under area.
I-
By merging them, they are making it part of the whole. So what they do with the whole would be the applicant's choice in the future, but
Right, so they would,
they're no longer an individual lot.
so if they wanted to
Or
build
lots.
something on their one, it would increase the lot coverage to greater than, so they'd have to come back to this board at a minimum. Where now they wouldn't have to come back to this board if they want to build on that lot, if it's a small structure.
That is correct.
The lot, they're proposing to have a final lot coverage, including those two lots, of 18.2%. Should that increase at all, it would require
Correct. All right.
an additional variance, correct?
But as it sits now, they don't have, it's not incorporated with those lots at this particular time, so if their desire was to build a small house for faculty or something on it, they could, if they so desired.
If they could erect whatever on those lots, it's a residential zone, if it complied
With
with all the
already,
bulk standards, used residentially,
even though the lot,
individually at this point. So the lot could, the overall lot as proposed, including those, could also be developed with 3 different lots, those 2 and what exists now.
all right.
I just want to add in this discussion, we're here to discuss the coverage that they're proposing.
Right.
And at any time, they can merge their proproperties
Right,
as
I
they
understand
go.
that.
So I just want to keep where we're headed
Right,
in on the coverage that they're asking for. That's
I
all.
understand.
That's all.
I just wanted the answer to that.
Yeah, no, I get it. I just want to keep the,
Yeah.
go ahead. Karen, you have,
No, Mr. Chairman, I
Oh.
don't have anything.
okay. Anybody else got any questions? Is anybody here to speak in favor of this application? Go ahead. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Vincenzo Di Natale. My address is 8 Taylor Lane in Wallingford. I graduated Choate in 2019. I was a day student when I attended Choate. I just wanted to speak on behalf of my experience using the dining hall as a day student. As a day student, some of the spaces are much more important for day students to feel involved with the community. Dining hall was one of them. I remember the dining hall being a crowded space and choosing to eat at home instead of the dining hall just because I could have more options there and it was a little more comfortable for me. So I know that the expansion of the servery would do a lot for day students of Wallingford included, just to feel a little bit more comfortable in there, getting more food and having more space. So I wanted to advocate for that today. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak in favor? Go ahead. Name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is
Hold the microphone down. You can pull it down. There you go.
Hi, my name is Lorraine Hilgen Santa, and I
A
live
little
in,
closer so we could hear you.
Sorry.
There you go.
My name is Lorraine Hilgen Santa, and I live on 238 North Elm Street in Wallingford, Connecticut. I am a Wallingford day student at Choate. I am in favor of this renovation as it is a benefit to people such as myself in the Wallingford community. Day students are able to eat 3 meals a day at this servery. This is not just an issue for people you do not know. This is an issue for day students and faculty and staff families in Wallingford. In the servery, all boarding students, day students, as well as faculty, staff, and their families have a chance to eat together, which makes the space a bit crowded. Even though the student body has not gotten any larger, the school community has difficulties serving lunch in a timely manner. This forces students to skip lunch. This is not an uncommon issue. There have been many times myself where I've decided it would take too much time to eat in the dining hall. I've also seen this severely impact students' health. This renovation is about improving the student experience, as well as a way to help students avoid wellness issues. Lastly, our Choate community, a community within this lovely Wallingford community, is very diverse and has many different dietary restrictions for health or cultural reasons. The current configuration of the servery is not equipped to deal with all the different challenges it faces. A new and updated facility would greatly benefit the students, as well as everyone in the Choate community within Wallingford. I hope that you can hear how many benefits would come to us Wallingford residents from the improvement of the Choate servery, and I hope you can understand how the pros seem to outweigh the cons. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here who want to speak in favor of this application? Anybody here who wants to speak against this application? Name and address for the record.
Rob Blanchard, Curtis Avenue. I'm not in favor of this or opposed to it. What my concern is that there's been a clear pattern over time related to the school in this board.
Can I just cut you off for a second? We're here to speak.
Yeah, this is relevant.
But I don't want to hear whether Choate is good, bad, or
No,
indifferent.
this has nothing, this is not Choate good, not Choate.
Hold on one second, please. All I want to hear is about whether, if you're against, and why you're against this cutting.
Right, you forced me to be against it then, so I'll be against it. This board has routinely issued variances where there's no hardship for this school. The only time that I can remember a variance being opposed is the new admissions building when 100 people showed up and said, I don't want it, right? So that shouldn't be the way that this organization, this board works. This board is here to protect the town. A hardship is a hardship which renders the property, and you should all know this, renders the property valueless. That's not the case here. Neither is, and they listed 5 or 6 of them on the application. They didn't list the Sally Hart Lodge. They didn't list the dorm across the street. They didn't list Colony Hall. They didn't list the lights on the football field or the scoreboard on the football field. There are no hardships with any of these. And if people just have to show up to stop that, then great, but that's not how this board should work. So, there is an alternative, and we've raised this at Planning and Zoning, we've raised this with the town planner, we've had conversations with Amy Torrey about this, is that we could rezone the school into a planned district so that they don't have to keep coming back for variances, and that they can design a district. Now, my understanding is that the school has been resistant to that. They can correct me if that's wrong, but I don't know that there's been any meaningful dialogue between the town planner, the zoning enforcement officer, and the school on rezoning it. It's a residential district. There's a reason that we have variances for that, right? So the rest of the rules are meant to protect the rest of the town. The variances are meant to protect somebody who's going to lose substantial value. They're not losing any substantial value. So I wasn't going to be opposed to this, but you forced me to move that direction. But I think the key message that I have is that the board needs to follow the rules as opposed to saying, oh, well, this is a nice project, it's okay, let's approve it. And that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else speak against this application?
Hi, good evening. My name is Phil Euchre, 29 Curtis Avenue. When I first heard about this application, I wanted to think about how I felt about it. I myself was a faculty member for 14 years and ate in the dining hall for 14 years as well. So I'm very familiar with the interior of the building and the servery and what is being asked here. But ultimately, upon reflection about how I felt about it, I realized it doesn't really matter how I feel about it. What's going on inside the building, the lines that might form, the needs of the students, is really irrelevant here because this is all about the hardship. It depends on whether there's an actual hardship. As the author of one of the documents you received in your packet, the one with a little map on it, I hope you had time to look at that, outlining the 7 different coverage increases on that lot, which received no variances based on any legitimate hardships. This would be one more variance granted based on convenience and desire, not based upon a hardship tied to the land. I have also heard that the reduction in noncompliance is being put forward as a means for granting this variance. I believe without merging those lots, it's actually an increase from the current lot, which includes Beaumont Avenue. Those other lots have not been merged in yet. We'd be voting on an increase contingent upon further lot mergers. That just doesn't seem that appropriate to me. Finally, I guess I would say that given those other 2 lot mergers of 179 Christian Street and 333 North Main Street, I would ask the board to add 1 more lot to be merged if we're really looking to reduce the non-compliance as much as possible. 307 North Main Street is an approximately 8,500 square foot vacant lot contiguous to the property. So I would ask that that be added to the requirements to be merged in as well. That would reduce the overall nonconformity to the greatest amount. But overall, I hope you will recognize there's no legitimate hardship for granting this variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else speak against this application? Hearing, seeing none. Counselor, you have anything further you'd
Yeah,
like
just
to add?
if I can quickly respond. The two students who spoke in favor, obviously what they said hopefully was meaningful to the board, but more importantly, the application isn't based, the genesis of the application is to improve the cafeteria, to make it more usable for the student body. That's not the hardship, that's not the hardship I've argued, that's not the hardship we've presented. So that's just the background, the genesis of why we're here. So you understand that we're here not just because we want to get involved with densities, we're here because there is a plan, and that's the plan that's presently in front of Planning and Zoning. As far as hardships and the fact that this board acts without, I guess, consideration of hardships, that would be unusual, at least from my vantage point. I know that each time that I come before you and I read your minutes, people are presenting the hardships so you have information before you when you vote. That's critical. The reason that I've presented the hardship, and I've referenced both the Connecticut Supreme Court, it's the case of Vine versus ZBA of the town of North Branford, and also Fuller on land use, who's the premier expert of Connecticut land use law. And he mentions, and I've got a copy of the handout, I don't know that you necessarily want to see it, but he does indicate that a variance is upheld where it reduces nonconforming lots and does away with the nonconformity. That is a basis on which these can be granted. And I know you've been given some legal advice by non-attorneys, but I will tell you that it is not the basis of a hardship that a property is rendered valueless. If the property is rendered valueless by the zoning, that's called inverse condemnation. That's where somebody sues the town to take the property from them. That's where property is valueless. There's no issue about dollars and cents or value here. The hardship is a Connecticut recognized hardship. It's the reduction of two nonconforming lots merged into a compliant lot. So in terms of land use, I think to one of your questions earlier, it cannot be developed once this merger occurs, and that merger would occur as a condition of approval based upon the comments from your staff. So there is a legally recognized hardship. We try to present that each and every time. And by the way, when you voted in 2020 to increase the building coverage, your minutes were very clear about what you found as a hardship, which was that was to make the property ADA compliant. As a matter of fact, the town attorney mentioned at that point that Choate may not have even needed a variance because it was to make the property, ADA compliant and more safe. But we came here in any event, like we're doing tonight, to try to explain the circumstance, come to you with a plan that reduces the density from what currently exists, take away two nonconforming lots, all while serving the needs of the student population. I don't know how there's any loss in any of this. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing and open up for discussion and possible action by the board. Go ahead, Bob.
So, the attorney just mentioned does away with the non-conform. Oh, isn't it, the mic's on, isn't it? Yes. The attorney mentioned it does away with the non-conforming. Does this do away with the non-conforming, Ms. Torrey?
They are eliminating two non-conforming lots.
The lot coverage, though, is greater than the lot coverage normally accepted for this size property. Even though they're reducing it, does it bring it down to the number that would fit into the criteria of the town standards?
It's less. If you developed to the 15% limit, which is the allowable limit of building coverage, on the two nonconforming lots and 28 Beaumont, and then you merge the three parcels into 138, the total density would be 18.4. That's in one of our calculations. This is a request for 18.2. So it's even lesser than what we would be permitted to develop on the lots individually.
And your permitted amount to develop is?
18.4%.
And this brings it down to 18.2.
Correct.
Okay.
All set, Mike?
Yep.
I'm going to close the public hearing and open it up for discussion and possible action by the board.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve application 23-016, various request for building coverage 18.2%, where 17.4 exist, and maximum 15% is permitted to construct a 3,590 square foot addition at 138 North Elm Street, as shown on main dining hall survey. Renovation plans dated 5/5/23 and received 5/19/23. An elevation rendering plan received 6/12/23. Subject to completing and filing a lot merger of 138 North Elm Street with 179 Christian Street and 333 North Main Street. So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve, Mr. Gross.
No.
Mr. Wolfer.
Yes to approve.
Ms. Harris.
Yes to approve.
Mr. Prentice.
Yes to approve.
And Chairman Sick.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Your
Thank you.
application's been granted.
The reason I went no
Thank you.
is because of this.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted from the May 15th meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye. So what was that?